Welcome back to my channel. Kate Martin getting the second half start. She slips inside the paint, glides past the help defense, and finishes through contact like she's been waiting her whole life for that exact moment. But here's what most people don't understand. That moment almost never happened. Because before Golden State, before the fresh start, before the confidence came back, Kate Martin was sitting at the end of the bench for the Las Vegas Aces, game after game, minute after minute watching. And in a locker room led by the reigning MVP Aya Wilson, there wasn't much oxygen left for a rookie trying to prove she belonged. Then the phone rang, and on the other end was Caitlin Clark. That one conversation didn't show up on ESPN. It didn't trend on social media, but it may have saved Kate Martin's WNBA career. Because when self-doubt creeps in, when you start wondering if you're just a practice body in a league that moves at light speed, sometimes all it takes is one person telling you the truth. And Caitlin told her something no one else did. You belong. The girl behind the superstar at University of Iowa, Kate Martin, was never supposed to be the headline. She played in the orbit of a phenomenon, a generational scorer, a walking highlight reel. But Kate wasn't lost in the shadow. She chose her role. During Iowa's back-to-back Final Four runs in 2023 and 2024, Martin averaged 13.1 points and nearly 7 rebounds a game. Those aren't courtesy minutes. Those aren't sympathy stats. Those are starter numbers, leadership numbers. But Kate understood something most elite athletes never fully grasp. Knowing your role isn't weakness. It's basketball intelligence. She set the screens that freed Clark for logo threes. She boxed out so the possession didn't die. She took the toughest defensive assignments without asking for credit. She was the steady voice in the huddle when chaos tried to take over. Caitlin had the spotlight. Kate ran the engine room. And here's the part highlight reels never show. Engine rooms don't get applause. No one clips the screen that created the space. No one posts the box out that led to a second chance bucket. No one trends the defensive rotation that prevented a run. But teammates know. Teammates always know. Built on trust, not hype. Their connection didn't happen overnight. It wasn't manufactured by cameras. It wasn't a media storyline. It was built in empty gyms. Kate was the first one in, the last one out, every single day. That consistency created trust. Real trust. She trusted me because she had seen the work, Kate once explained. And that matters. Because when your hardest worker isn't the star, when it's the player willing to do the dirty work, it changes the culture of an entire program. Even Clark admitted it felt night and day once Kate settled into her freshman year. At first, Clark had heard about this high school phenom coming in, a girl putting up video game numbers, and thought, okay, she's going to try to take over. Instead, Kate walked in and made everyone better. That's not coaching. That's character. What made their partnership different wasn't just basketball IQ. It was emotional intelligence. Kate didn't just build chemistry on the court. She built relationship equity off it. Team dinners, long conversations, honest check-ins. She invested before she corrected. So when the moment came where she needed to challenge Clark, to say something difficult, to pull her back emotionally, to reset the focus, Caitlin listened. Because trust had already been earned. And that dynamic is rare. Most players want the spotlight. Kate wanted the standard. From Final Four to fragile future, but the WNBA is not college. It doesn't care about culture stories. It doesn't care about emotional glue players. It cares about production. And in Las Vegas, opportunities were scarce. The Las Vegas Aces were built to win now. Veterans, all-stars, MVPs, a system that didn't have patience for development minutes. Martin wasn't failing. She just wasn't playing. And when you're a competitor wired to contribute, sitting quietly can start to feel like erasure. She admitted later she wasn't even sure her career would survive. That's how thin the margin is. The call that changed everything then Caitlin called. Not with sympathy, with honesty. She reminded Kate who she was before the doubt, before the bench, before the silence. She reminded her of the engine room, of the screens, the box outs, the leadership, of the value that never needed a stat sheet to validate it. And that clarity gave Kate the courage to make a decision that felt terrifying at the time. To leave comfort, leave familiarity, and step into a completely new chapter in Golden State. A new locker room, a new opportunity, a new identity. Not as the girl next to the star, but as a pro who survived the edge and came back stronger. Why this story matters: the truth that brought Kate Martin back isn't in a highlight package. It isn't measured in points per game. It's measured in resilience. In knowing that sometimes the most important player on the floor isn't the loudest one. It's the one doing invisible work that keeps everything else functioning. Kate Martin was never supposed to be the headline. But sometimes the most powerful stories belong to the ones who were never chasing the spotlight in the first place. And sometimes all it takes to step back into your future is one phone call from someone who truly sees you. There was a time when Carver Hawkeye Arena felt like just another college gym. Solid program, loyal fans, respectable noise. And then something shifted. During those back-to-back Final Four seasons, that building transformed from a quiet arena into a full-blown storm. Tickets vanished in minutes. Celebrities started showing up. The decibel level hit record highs. National cameras stayed parked in Iowa City like it was the center of the basketball universe. Yes, people came to witness Caitlin Clark, but they stayed because the team felt different, felt connected, felt fearless, felt complete. And a huge reason for that completeness was Kate Martin. She was never the headline, but without her, there was no story worth telling. The game that explained everything. If you really want to understand Kate Martin, you don't start with a stat sheet. You start with the 2023 Final Four. You start with Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball walking into a matchup that most analysts had already decided. Across from them stood the powerhouse, South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball. Undefeated, dominant, intimidating. They had size, length, athleticism, everything built in a lab to crush opponents. Their front court had been nicknamed the Twin Towers. Two towering, physical forces who had bullied teams all season long. Most experts didn't think Iowa had a real chance. The narrative was simple. Caitlin Clark would have to go nuclear just to keep it respectable. And even that might not be enough. To be fair, that wasn't disrespect. South Carolina hadn't lost a single game all year. They walked into that arena with the swagger of a team that believed the trophy already had its name engraved. But what happened that night didn't follow the script. It shocked the entire country. Iowa won. And if you look beyond the scoring column, that's what Kate Martin kept saying in the huddle during that Final Four battle against the South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball. And that phrase mattered more than most people will ever understand. At that level, basketball isn't just about size or speed, it's about psychology. One bad possession can spiral. One missed shot can tighten your chest. One turnover can make young legs feel like concrete. South Carolina knew that. They were undefeated, experienced, patient. They didn't just apply pressure, they waited for Iowa to panic. But Iowa never cracked, because Kate Martin wouldn't let them. While Caitlin Clark was doing what she does best, creating, scoring, drawing double teams from near half court, Kate was quietly dismantling South Carolina's rhythm on the other end. Every screen she set had purpose. Every box out was intentional. Every defensive communication came a second early instead of a second late. She wasn't chasing highlight clips. She was chasing control. And there's a massive difference between those two things. One mindset wants applause. The other wants execution. After the game, Kate called that win the greatest moment of her career. Not the national title stage. Not the record-breaking crowds at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Not the viral moments that flooded social media. That specific game against the best team in the country, when nobody believed Iowa had a chance, that was her peak. Think about that. A player who went to 2 Final Fours, played in some of the most watched college basketball games in recent history, and her defining memory is the night experts expected her team to lose badly. That tells you who she is. Kate Martin doesn't measure greatness by attention. She measures it by execution. Her chemistry with Clark during those years with the Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball went beyond plays on a whiteboard. Kate could read a missed three before it left Clark's hand and was already sliding into rebounding position. Clark instinctively found Kate in tight windows before the defense rotated. It looked like teamwork, but it felt like instinct, like two competitors operating on the same frequency. And that South Carolina game was proof that their connection wasn't hype. It was built under pressure. Then came the WNBA. And nobody truly prepares you for that jump. You can train all summer, memorize the playbook, study film, but until you share the floor with veterans who have been professionals for a decade, you don't understand the margin. Kate learned that quickly with the Las Vegas Aces. On paper, it looked like the perfect landing spot: championship culture, elite coaching, proven system, stars like Aya Wilson leading the way. But reality felt different. Minutes were scarce. Opportunities were thinner. Confidence wasn't shattered all at once. It faded quietly, game by game, as she watched more than she played. And for a competitor wired to stabilize chaos, sitting still felt like the hardest adjustment of all. In Las Vegas, there was a clear hierarchy. Aya Wilson was the franchise. Chelsea Gray ran the offense. The veterans controlled the rotation, the tempo, the trust. And for a rookie trying to find her footing with the Las Vegas Aces, there simply wasn't space to grow, only space to wait. Kate Martin felt it immediately. The physicality of the WNBA hit differently than she expected. The players were longer, faster, smarter. These weren't just elite college athletes. They were professionals who had been sharpened by overseas leagues, national teams, championship runs. They didn't give you time to process. They didn't wait for you to adjust. And if your coaching staff wasn't actively investing in your development, you didn't evolve. You survived. Or you disappeared. In May of her rookie season, Kate was averaging around 20 minutes per game, respectable for a first-year player on a title contender. But by September, that number had dropped to 11. 5 minutes. Her scoring dipped to 2. 6 points per game. Rebounds fell to 1. 6. On paper, it looked like regression. In reality, it was reduction. Reduced opportunity. Reduced rhythm. Reduced belief. Those numbers don't describe a player who got worse. They describe a player who stopped being given chances. Then the playoffs arrived. 6 games. 3 total minutes. 3 minutes across an entire postseason run. She wasn't injured. She wasn't imploding in practice. The coaching staff simply had no intention of developing her. The Aces were chasing another championship. Rookies were insurance policies, scout team bodies, rotation fillers, placeholders. What makes that stat line brutal is the context. This was the same player who averaged 13 points and 7 rebounds in college. The same player who helped dismantle an undefeated South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball team in the Final Four. The same player whose basketball IQ had been praised for years at the University of Iowa. And that resume translated into 3 playoff minutes. Publicly, Kate has been careful, professional, measured. There are only 12 spots, she said. It's just hard. Hard. Not unfair. Not disrespectful. Not infuriating. Hard. Because she understands the business. She understands that championship windows don't slow down for rookie development. But understanding something doesn't make it hurt less. There's a particular kind of pain that comes from being ignored in a place you fought to reach. It's not loud like losing a game. It's quieter. It builds practice by practice, timeout by timeout, until one day you're standing at the end of the bench during a playoff game wondering how the role you once owned shrank into silence. Every scout team rep, every possession running the opponent's plays, every late game huddle where you weren't part of the discussion, chips away at something. The confidence she built over 4 years in Iowa didn't collapse overnight. It eroded slowly, not because she failed, but because the system had already decided she wasn't essential. Even legends have spoken about that transition. Sue Bird once described how brutal the leap from college to the pros can be. The speed, the schemes, the complexity. Even the most decorated players walk in humbled. But Bird also emphasized something else. The right system unlocks talent. The wrong one buries it. Talent doesn't bloom when it's buried. And in Las Vegas, Kate Martin's game felt 6 feet under. The hardest part? It didn't seem like anyone inside the organization noticed or needed to. The phone call at her lowest point, Kate did what she had always done when she needed clarity. She called Caitlin Clark. This wasn't a light catch-up between former teammates. Clark, when Kate finally opened up about what was happening in Vegas, the shrinking minutes, the playoff bench, the quiet fear that her career was fading before it had even started, Caitlin Clark didn't give her cliches. No, just keep grinding. No, your time will come. Caitlin had seen Kate up close for years at the University of Iowa. She knew exactly what she was capable of. She knew the disappearing role in Las Vegas had nothing to do with ability. So she said the one thing nobody else had been willing to say out loud. You're not failing. They're failing you. 6 words. But those 6 words reframed everything. Because when you sit in the wrong situation long enough, your brain starts protecting itself by assigning blame, and the easiest target is you. Maybe Iowa was lightning in a bottle. Maybe the league exposed something. Maybe the stat line was telling the truth. Caitlin shut that narrative down immediately. She reminded Kate of the early mornings, the defensive reads, the way she studied opponents without ever needing the spotlight, the 2 years it took to build real trust, the Final Four run that ended the undefeated season of the South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball. That resume didn't vanish because one franchise couldn't see it. Then Caitlin said something even harder. Sometimes the most powerful move isn't grinding harder in a place that doesn't value you. It's finding a place that does. At that moment, Kate didn't even know what her future looked like with the Las Vegas Aces. The expansion draft was looming. She hadn't been told whether she'd be protected. She was living in silence, and silence from an organization can say more than words ever will. When she eventually learned she hadn't been protected, that the Golden State Valkyries could select her, she didn't spiral. She didn't feel discarded. The call had already shifted her mindset. The fact that I knew I was going to get another shot, I was excited, she said. That's what honest truth does. It doesn't just comfort you, it repositions you. Leaving Las Vegas wasn't quitting. It was choosing herself. A blank canvas in Golden State, the Valkyries were different from day one. There was no established hierarchy towering over the locker room. No MVP shadow dictating rotation politics. No wait your turn culture baked into a championship core. This franchise was starting from zero, blank canvas, open seats at the table. And Kate Martin didn't walk in cautiously. She walked in ready. General Manager Ohima Nyanen made the vision clear. High IQ players, unselfish competitors, culture builders over stat chasers. Kate wasn't just a fit for that blueprint. She was the blueprint. Head coach Natalie Nakase, who had seen Kate's work ethic up close during her time in Vegas, understood exactly what she was getting. Her philosophy in Golden State revolves around effort and intent. Mistakes are part of growth. Complacency isn't tolerated. Communication is mandatory. For Kate, it felt like breathing again. Everybody's excitement to get better, to learn, to build each other up has been phenomenal, she said. And when the team opened at Chase Center, the Bay Area responded. Season tickets sold out. In the first home game against Los Angeles, the Valkyries were trailing, but the fans stayed. Every possession, every minute. That means a lot, Kate said. Seeing your fans stay and cheer for you. They were invested. Investment. That's the difference. Her role in Golden State is exactly what she was built for. Rebound relentlessly. Defend without pause. Make the right pass. Knock down the open shot. She's not chasing highlight reels. She's not hunting viral moments. She's doing what she has always done best. Making the system work. The Valkyries also infused the roster with experienced international players. Fast, instinctive, high IQ shooters who thrive in motion. Kate embraced it immediately. They brought a crazy spark, she said. Very high IQ. They want to play fast. And they brought a lot of fun. This is what the right environment looks like. Not a place that tolerates you. Place that needs you. Vegas saw Kate as a roster slot. Golden State sees her as infrastructure. And that one shift from placeholder to foundation can define an entire career. Sue Bird once said the system matters more than the spotlight. Not the biggest market. Not the flashiest roster. The right system. Kate Martin found hers. Here's what this story really comes down to. Kate Martin sat on that Vegas bench for a full season. She watched her minutes evaporate. She felt her confidence take quiet hits. And she kept showing up. Because that's who she is. But one late-night phone call from Caitlin Clark reminded her of something critical. A bad situation is not a life sentence. Golden State didn't save Kate Martin. Caitlin Clark didn't save Kate Martin. Kate Martin saved Kate Martin. By being willing to leave comfort, embrace uncertainty, and start over in a place that actually sees her. That's not just a sports lesson. That's a life lesson. If the story hit differently for you, drop a comment and tell me what you think happens next for the Golden State Valkyries. We'll see you in the next one.